The silver-haired woman cocked her head to one side and smiled such a tiny smile that the man at the back of the room could not see it. But he knew she was smiling. He knew by the angle of her neck and the delicate motion of her fingertips on her lips that her eyes were soft and distant as she remembered.
Hi, I'm Doreen Barnes, and welcome to The Reader's Corner. Sitting with me today is author Carol Williams, and she has written the second book of Emma Field. Emma is actually a Canadian heroine who travels to the United States along the Hudson River Valley. And what she runs into is the inequalities that she finds between the white people, the slaves, and the men and the women. So let's talk with Carol. Carol, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Where is Nine Partners? Where's this located?
That area is around the town of current Millbrook, the current day Millbrook, and that's about an hour's drive north of New York City, right on east of the Hudson River.
Yeah. East of the Hudson River, okay. When you started your second book, you started Emma as an older woman, as opposed to the young student teacher that she became. Why?
She's not that much older. She's a little bit older, and I honestly can't tell you why. That's just the way it was. That was the next, yeah.
Okay, and what is a meeting house? Some people might not be aware of a meeting house.
Right.
That term. What is a meeting house?
It's a church for Quakers, and so because they call their church services or worship services meetings, and that's why it's a meeting house.
Now, Emma ends up traveling to the United States. Why did you choose the United States as opposed to traveling somewhere here in Canada?
Again, that's just kind of the way it went. But she, as I was working on the first book and studying the Westlake boarding school, which was the first Quaker boarding school in Canada, there a lot of information led me back to Nine Partners, and that was the school that the Westlake boarding school was based upon. And then the more I researched that, the more I learned about Lucretia Mott, who ended up having to be a character in this book. So that's.
And I also liked, is it Jezebel Rose? I thought she was just the cutest little thing. Now, what about her diction? How did you?
Oh, that took quite a bit of work actually, because. What I did is I spent a lot of time going through Harriet Tubman's, the stories that were recorded, the stories that she had shared about her own life.
Yes.
And the first few versions through, I actually had a lot more, I tried to write it a lot more the way she spoke and the way it was transcribed at the time, but it was just too confusing, so I ended up, this is the simplified version of it. So
for people who do not know who Harriet Tubman, do you want to explain who she is?
She was an amazing black woman who was a slave, escaped slavery, and made many trips back into the southern United States to bring people out. And she was fierce, and she was determined, and a tiny bit of a woman who could fall asleep on the drop of a hat, but was an amazing woman. So,
Even though she was small, she was still quite powerful, wasn't she? Now, Emma actually does get married, doesn't she?
You're not supposed to tell anybody that.
I'm not supposed to tell that. Well, it's out there right now. But she does get married. Yeah. Why did you end up marrying her to Jonathan? Like, was there a reason why you felt that it should be Jonathan and not someone else?
Well, I think kind of the quandary that she found herself in was a quandary that a lot of women at that time found themselves in, with so few doors being open to them. And marriage was a way of surviving as a woman at that time. So that's I guess the short version.
The short version of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, she actually did teach for a while in the States, and her character, she had a lot of learning to do, didn't she? She was very, very young when she left Canada, and going into an area that, especially the type of people that she was involved with, and the classroom environment that she was in, she really had to learn a lot, didn't she? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of how all of that evolved is, again, Nine Partners Boarding School had many students over the years, and a number of them have written their memoirs, and so I was able to take bits and pieces of kind of how the school was run at that time and how it was run at different times, and kind of create some of the conflict that actually, based on real stories of things that really had happened at the school.
So are the Friends really Quakers?
Yes, it's the same.
It's the same?
Yeah, Religious Society of Friends is the exact same. Quaker is a slang name
Yes, okay.
for
For a
friends.
friend.
Yes, yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the term being used because it makes everyone equal.
Yes.
So everyone, no one is higher than, no one person is higher than another.
So meaning that there's equal, and the women are treated as an equal. I see. Okay, all right. I was a little confused about Hannah. She seemed very worldly, yet she was cautious. Can you just elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, again, to me, she was a really a real person, and you can be worldly and still have that air of caution about you, and
yeah. Do you think that Jonathan really, really loved Emma?
As much as he could would be my guess.
As much as he was able to,
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, now what do you mean as much as what he was able to? What was holding him back?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. Would it have been his upbringing?
Probably, yeah.
And because of him being a Quaker, he probably had to respect what the Quaker lifestyle was?
Yeah, I would, I mean, there were certainly, in general, I would say most Quakers are really very liberal in their thinking, and he was a very conservative Quaker, and lived a very conservative life with his brother and sister, and I think he wanted more. He wanted her life and energy, but often what happens with people is who they are inside kind of gets, dictates things. So I think that's what happened there.
No, actually, you have a riddle in this book, do you not?
The one about the marriage?
Yes. Okay. There, I think it was on page 29 or
Okay.
something like that. Do you remember that?
And that came from a book that was used at that time. Actually, one of the people I speak about in this book,
Yes.
Jacob Willits, he wrote that. He wrote that riddle. And
He wrote the riddle, so it is authentic then. I wondered if it was. When I read it, I thought, I wonder if it was authentic or if it was something that you actually had come up with.
No, he was a brilliant mathematician, and he had lots of clever ways of teaching math to kids. So that came actually from the book that he wrote.
Let's go back to Jonathan for a moment. Do you think that maybe he was a little bit intimidated by Emma? Do you think he was?
He could have been. I don't know. I never really thought of it that way. Yeah, he might have been.
Because she was very curious. She was bold. So I just wondered when I was reading about the two of them, if maybe he thought, oh wow,
Maybe it was a bit more than he could handle.
maybe I bit off more than what I should have. And but it was very interesting. I really, really did enjoy that reading. Why do you think he destroyed the beehives? Why would he do that?
Ooh, sometimes undercurrents of frustration with people or frustrations with oneself comes out in all sorts of ways. And I think, the beehives at the time, people using these new movable hives were really branching out into something completely different. And I know it seems insignificant now, but women who got a hive and started their own little business with a hive of bees were doing something quite radical at the time, quite different at the time, and so it was really a a step that took Emma to a more independent place, and I think Jonathan had a bit of trouble with
So
that.
there was a little bit of a statement being made there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So later on in the book, you're talking about women's rights, and Emma really does get involved with quite a few other ladies who are out there talking about inequalities. Can you just elaborate why you took that route with Emma?
Well, again, the research led me to that, and it just happened that at the very period that I was writing about, all of these huge changes were taking place in upper New York State, and the group of Quaker women who gathered for tea one afternoon decided that there were so many inequalities that had to be addressed that they needed to have some form of gathering together and discussing things and moving things along politically. And one of the key people involved with that was Lucretia Mott. And Lucretia Mott was a student and later a teacher at Nine Partners Boarding School. So the whole thing just fit in beautifully, and it was in many ways Emma's life was able to dovetail with actually what these key women were realizing needed to be addressed and altered, and so that's why the whole thing fit together there that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you actually touch upon the Underground Railroad as well.
Again, that was an area that is a little bit harder to track down, just the details, because people kept things as absolutely quiet as they could,
Yes.
and to the point where family members wouldn't tell one another if they were sheltering for the night, fugitives for the night. So although the details are sketchy, it is known that many fugitives pass through that area, and some of the key people are known as well. Stephen Haight was one person in that area who passed a lot of people through, but again, it was all what was happening there at the time, and even at the boarding school too. That I believe on record there somewhere it's recorded that they had children of color there as well, and that was really unheard of at that time.
So what we're talking about what century?
1847, 48.
1847, 48.
Yeah.
So I can understand why there wouldn't have been a lot of information that was recorded at that time. And as you say, they wanted to keep it secretive anyway, for safety reasons. Is there another book that's going to be coming out?
For sure. I've
book 3?
Yep, I've started on book 3, and the more work I do, I think there has to be a book 4 too. But
how exciting!
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to read a little bit more about Emma Field. Now, if viewers are interested in the book, Emma, where can they get it?
Leeds County Books here
Yes.
in Brockville has it, as well as they can be ordered from my website, which is www.emmafield.ca.
Okay, well, Carol, thank you ever so much
Thank
for
you.
coming in today
Thank
and
you.
talking about your latest book.
Good.
We really appreciate it.
A tree that's well maintained from seedling to maturity will continue to filter pollution from the air 20, 40, maybe 60 years or more. And they don't charge a penny for doing it. At home, in your neighborhood, and in your community, trees do their part. Let's do ours. Help Tree Canada grow clean air.
Some say the Children's Wish Foundation started with this locket, a wish from a hospitalized girl for something special her mother could remember her by. And 25 years and 15,000 wishes later, we make sure the magic and excitement includes the entire family. And we celebrate the successes and hope that wishes can bring. Thank you from the Children's Wish Foundation of Canada and this station.
Show me the money. 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 You can do it, man. Show me the money. money! Give me that money! It's not about the money.
Hi, I'm Doreen Barnes, and welcome to Reader's Corner. We're very fortunate today to have three individuals with us, and we're going to be talking about the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society book. It's a long title, and with me are Rosemary McGowan, and we have Ann Dawson, and we have Claire. No, welcome, ladies. I was intrigued with this book. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. What I like about it, it's letters. It's a book about letters and a story that has been tied together, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
I've read other epistolary novels, and I'm always surprised at how they can tell a story and get all the information imparted to the reader without a narrative.
You're quite right. Like, I mean, this is, it's one of those books that you cannot just put down. Once you start reading, you want to know more. And as you're reading the letters, you're thinking about them, and you're actually visualizing them on this island. Now, this book was written after the occupation of Jersey, correct? And it was about a writer by the name of Julie Austin?
Juliet Ashton.
Ashton,
Yeah.
who had, actually, someone had contacted her from the island. It was a male, wasn't it?
Yeah. The book actually was written in 2008, but it takes place in 1946, so right after the war. And Juliet's in London, her apartment's bombed out, and she's somewhere else sort of waiting, and she gets this letter from somebody on the island who'd found her name and address in one of her books, and that's how the whole thing starts off.
Now, that was
With
Dawsey.
this letter, that was Dawsey, yes.
Yes.
And the whole thing starts with this communication to her from the Guernsey Islands. And it went from there, and I agree, it's a fascinating history of what happened during the occupation, with lots of humor thrown in and human endurance, you name it, it's all there.
It's all there. Well, what I liked about the book is this Dawsey is supposed to be so so shy, so withdrawn.
A strong
but
silent.
Yet, yes, a strong silent. But yeah, he wanted to know more. It's Charles Lamb, wasn't it? He was
Yeah.
talking about. He
Yeah.
wanted to know more, and so he was able to come out of his shell for a little while there and write this letter to Juliet to ask.
Yeah, but you see, it's easier to write than to talk when you're shy.
Yes,
Right.
not being face to face.
So he was able to